Hello and welcome back to another edition of Dino Talk. I'm your host, Bobby Dino. Now today we're going to be talking about gnarly fights. Okay, now contrary to popular belief, prison isn't just one big fight fest 24/7. It's not like, everybody's just rioting all day long, always. Now, it does happen. Fights happen more or less on a daily basis sometimes, but on a smaller scale. It's not something to where the place is just constantly burning down and on fire. One of the reasons for that is because people want to do their time in peace. If you've got a bunch of riots kicking off or a bunch of people getting caught for fights, you're going to have the cops all up in your stuff. They're going to go through all of your different belongings, toss stuff. They'll walk on your bed. You'll come back, you'll see boot prints all over everything. Sometimes they'll break stuff on purpose. If you've got any extra issue or any contraband, it's gone. They're going to take that. So it's something to where people don't want their involvement, so they try and handle themselves in the most low profile way possible. Also, let's say something happens and you start something that's unnecessary, and the cop comes to your cell or to your dorm, and somebody in your dorm has drugs, okay? And the cop searches everything, they find all this person's drugs. Well, it's gonna be on you, or at least they're gonna put it on you, like, hey, you did something stupid. Now the cops hear that guy might be getting new charges. At the very least, he's gonna lose all that dope. So then they're gonna wanna put you on the hook for it. If it's a cell phone, right? Maybe they're going to be like, hey, you got to buy me a cell phone now. I mean, whatever it is. So you really have to watch yourself in a sense that you don't want to be doing something stupid or out of pocket. If you're going to have to go down that route, A, you're going to want to make it worth it. And B, you're going to try and not get caught. Now, one of the ways you can not get caught was you hit a blind spot. Now, a blind spot is just what it sounds like. It's a spot where the cops can't see readily unless they walk over to that area. The phone area was kind of a blind spot. If they were in their office, they wouldn't be able to see the phones. The bathrooms were another area that was a blind spot. If they were sitting at their table, they couldn't see in the bathrooms. And then, at least in dorm living, a couple of the dorms that were in the corners, actually 4 of them, because there's 2 on the bottom and then 2 on the top, on opposite sides of the building. Those were considered blind spots as well. If you could kind of go up against one of the walls to where the cops couldn't get an angle. Now, different stuff could give you away, like they could hear the shoes squeaking on the floor, sounds like somebody's playing an indoor basketball game or something. That was a giveaway. Another giveaway too was people would look. So you really had to master the art of looking without looking, because the first cardinal rule in prison is mind your own business, okay? So if you've got a whole bunch of people that are doing this and the cop sees, what are they all looking at? Then the cop's going to get up and go, hey, what's going on over there, right? So you really kind of had to master the art to where if something was going over here, you were just kind of, peeking out of the corner of your eye, maybe even looking the opposite direction, but doing it. You didn't want to give away what someone else was doing, because again, you do something like that, that person can say, oh, well, you're the one that got me in trouble. And whether it's right or wrong or whatnot, prison isn't a place that gives a shit about your right or wrong or what's fair and not fair. Okay, you got a bunch of crazy people in there, up is down, left is right. So don't expect things to make sense, okay? So you either had to agree to meet in a blind spot, or you had to try and catch somebody in a blind spot, right? So as far as like jumping went, like let's say somebody was going to get jumped or they were going to get handled by their race, okay? They'd wait for that person to go use the bathroom. And then when that person went into the bathroom, you'd have 3 or 4 guys run in there afterwards and boo-bop him, and then he'd be left in a bloody pile on the floor. And then someone else usually would say something like man down way after the fact. And then, the cops would hit the building alarm. Everybody'd have to prone out or get on their bunks, and then they'd handle their business. So these fights, they could be over anything. over anything. Now, most of the time, it was over disrespect or not paying a dope debt, which essentially is disrespect. Okay, so somebody gets some drugs, they don't pay, then they start giving the runaround about, oh, well, my family sent it, here's the Western Union confirmation number, and then the people would go to the phone and call, hey, here's the confirmation number. No, those numbers are bogus. Oh, okay, well, these are bogus numbers. Oh, I must have heard wrong. Let me call my family back. And they do this whole big runaround, just trying to con someone. And eventually the person that was trying to get conned, they wouldn't be feeling it anymore and they'd go and handle business, right? A lot of these dudes that were dope dealers, they were smart enough not to do it themselves. What they do is they'd offer someone some free dope if they went and beat the dude's ass that they had a problem with. So people were still smart about it even when they were disrespected. Now, I did see one time there was an incident to where it was a paisa, which is paisas were Mexican nationals. They were usually born in Mexico and usually couldn't speak that great of English if they spoke any English at all. And there was this lifer paisa, and he was dealing dope, and somebody tried giving him the runaround like that. Oh, here's the numbers. Oh, let me call my family. Oh, they're not here today. Oh, whichever. So finally, the paisa just had enough. Right? He's just like, I ain't hearing this anymore. So he got at the dude kind of sneaky, and he's like, hey, let's go get on the phone right now. You call your family. If something could be worked out, we'll work something out, kind of trying to put the dude at ease. But in his mind, he already had it made up, like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker right now. So they had dude go over to the phone area where it was a blind spot because the cops were over in their office. One guy was over in the corner to where he's looking to see if the cops come out so he can give the signal or not. And when that guy went over there, they hit his head up against the wall, which is concrete. Guy falls down, and then the lifer paisa just proceeded to stomp this dude's head. And I mean stomp it to where like it went flat, like he killed him. It was pretty friggin' gnarly. That was pretty gnarly one-on-one, even though that guy didn't really get a one-on-one, and he didn't really stand a chance to begin with. Because if he didn't get got right there, he was going to get got somewhere. Now, you're not always guaranteed a one-on-one. Even if the person says, oh, okay, hey, let's go, we're going to handle this one-on-one, that wasn't guaranteed. Like, that guy there's no honor among convicts, The only real thing that's the cardinal rule is you don't go to the cops. But other than that, dudes try and pull tricks on you, do whichever they can. So you'd get dudes that'd say, okay, one-on-one, and then when you went over there to go handle your business, 4 more people showed up and just whooped the shit out of you. As a matter of fact, some groups like the Sureños or the Southsiders, when I was there, they had a no ass beating policy, which essentially meant you will not get a one-on-one. If you have a problem with one of them, you are going to fight all of them. So, some people were pretty open with it, to where it was, you just weren't going to get that. So really bad fights, you'd have weapons, okay? Lock in the sock was a real popular one. So everybody had a combination lock. And what would happen is this combination lock would be used for your locker to lock away your property. Well, people would take a sock or 2 socks so that it wouldn't go flying out in case the sock ripped. And they just drop this sock in the bottom of there. And then when they swing it, whoop-ah, right? They've got this hard piece of metal inside of a sock. They essentially made a flail. And it would split people's wigs. You get hit with one of those. I saw this one time, this Mexican dude, he was an older homie. I want to say that he was a bulldog, which is, it's a Fresno area Mexican group. And he owed some money for dope. And they had, the race that he owed money to had gotten at his people, and this guy was just, putting it off and off. So they went up in the dorm and they had lock in the socks, and they hit this dude in the head like 3 or 4 times. And man, it opened him up. Now, head wounds bleed gnarly as it is anyway, but they opened this dude's head up. Like it was pretty gnarly. So that was a popular one. Another one that I saw that was pretty gnarly during a riot was a mop ringer. So cleaning equipment for the house. You have this position called porters, and they clean the housing units. Well, they put everything like the brooms and the mops and everything. They're locked up in a room, essentially like a closet type room, so to speak. And for good reason. You know, you break a long stick, now you got a spear, right? Well, one of the things that they had is they had these mop wringers that went in the bucket. And when you grab a mop wringer by the handle, it's just a bunch of hard, square plastic metal at the end, and you hit somebody with that, they're going to be in a lot of hurt, man. And that happened quite a few times too. The mop wringer was a popular one, especially if somebody knew that something was going to go down. They try and get it to where they could get access to those brooms or whichever, or when everything was being put away, they do something sneaky like hand one off real quick when the cop wasn't looking. So, I mean, there was opportunities where people were using different weapons like that. Some of the old men had canes. Canes were another thing. Usually the old guys would try and use it themselves, but you'd get youngsters, they'd grab an old dude's cane, or if somebody was on a crutch, they'd grab their crutch and be batting people with it. I mean, there was all types of just gnarliness, you know, when it came to weapons, especially with riots. So the thing is that you always had to watch your back. You always had to stay on your toes. There was no dialing down your situational awareness, so to speak, because if you did, you're going to be in trouble. All it took was you just not paying attention for a second, and then if somebody has a problem with you, you're going to get got. And it may not even be somebody had a problem with you specifically. It could be that, let's say the blacks were planning on kicking it off with the whites, right? And you just happened to be the white guy sitting in the TV area next to a few blacks, and they were just like, all right, it's about to kick off. We'll just fucking rat pack this dude right here. And if you weren't paying attention, you may have never had any problems with it. Hell, you might have even been cool with those dudes. You might have even had laughs and been joking around in the TV area or you know, some point just thought you were cool with them. And then all of a sudden you're getting beat to death by them. So there were definitely those times where people that weren't expecting it, they got it. And the reason being is that they weren't paying attention. They stopped looking out. And just like you got to pay attention in real life or in prison, you got to pay attention in real life too. You can't be letting your guard down because crazy shit can happen. We're seeing it happen now. So that was the thing with prison, man, is everything was solved with violence. Violence wasn't the last resort necessarily. Sometimes it was the immediate resort. You didn't have that safety of, oh, the cops will help me, or, oh, this will that, because, I mean, the cops might have been the people trying to send someone to get you. You might have smarted off to a cop, and a cop told some guy, hey, if you get this guy, I'll give you some tobacco, or I'll give you a Walkman, right? And for that dummy, that was enough. Like, oh, I get a Walkman? Okay. And he'd go and do the cops' dirty work for him. So you just never knew what happened. But ultimately what it was you had to keep your eyes open, and you always had to maintain safety. So before I cut out here, I've got a new book that just came out. It's called Thinking Tough. It's been out almost 2 weeks. It's been getting a lot of great reviews. If you look at the link in the bio, there'll be a link there. You can check it out. And make sure you check out that book. That's a book that lets people in on the secrets and techniques that I used and that I learned while inside to turn my life profitable when I got out, to stay out, to make money, to get property, to have a family. So check that book out. Links in the bio. Thank you for joining. There will be another issue of Dino Talks coming out soon. But until next time, stay safe out there.